Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 53 of the Westmarch Workshop, Full Throttle Speculation. We've got quite a show in store for you here. Despite the drought of news that's going on, we're going to think of something to talk about. And tonight I am joined by the very special Nevik. He's going
Hello.
through and coming in here tonight. Let me cut out the intro screen so everybody can see there. There you go. You can see our sponsor of our show title, Full Throttle, for we are both brethrens of the world's greatest energy drink that has ever come.
hmm
So yeah.
I know somebody out there in the Coca-Cola Corporation plays Diablo, and they probably listen to podcasts. So
So hopefully someone out there, yeah, we are willing to take a sponsorship from Coke if you want
yes,
to just send us free full throttles, both on my show and on your show. Which, speaking
yep.
of which, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? What do you do in the community? Why are you on my lawn?
Uh, well, a long time ago, I used to do a World of Warcraft podcast with my buddy Rillandune, who I love to torture, and it was called The Overlords, and I got the podcasting bug. Long time before that, I was a blogger, and I think my very first appearance was on a show called the Twisted Nether Blogcast,
Hmm.
and just from there, everything, you know, took off, and um, kind of friends with Medros. Well, I am friends with Medros from the Dawn Forge Network. You may have heard of it, All Things Azeroth, and I guess Shattered
Hmm.
Soulstone is the other, um, big seat show on that network,
Hmm.
and back before Diablo 3 came out, I was in the chat room and I was like, "Hey, Medros, when are you gonna do a Diablo show?" And then he turned it around on me and he was like, "When are you gonna do a Diablo show for my network?" I was
Ho
like,
ho ho.
I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." So at the time there was Diablo Inc. Gamers, the Diablo podcast,
Hmm.
and there was
I've heard of that one before. Listened
yes,
to it a couple times.
yeah. Um, and I'm trying to think of the other. There was another podcast slash YouTube.
The World's Stone
Um,
Keep.
yes, thank you. I was blanking on the name. And at that time, they were covering the news really. They were covering the news. So I was like,
Hmm.
I don't really want to step in and try to be a news oriented show. And I was a huge Control Alt WoW listener. So I figured, why not take the community angle with the
Hmm.
podcast? And I mean, there's a lot of people who have lots of stories about the loot that drops or doesn't drop, such as Enchanting Favor this season. That
Hmm.
item does not exist. Um, but we decided, or at least I decided, to take that angle with the podcast. And Medjurus helped wrangle in Jen and Braza, who are my two co-joeys. And we started October of 2012. So 2012? No, 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 no. 2011. What am I
Hmm.
thinking? Yes, back in 2011, before the game released. And funny enough, we did a bunch of shows before Diablo 3 came out. And we went with the community angle. At the time, we were getting some participation, mainly from the Diablo 2 era
Yeah.
players. And we did some interviews, and then we brought in our fourth chair, otherwise known as our fourth musketeer, Lantonio, who loves crickets, and we've pretty much just been continuing to do a community focused show. That way, when we have droughts of Diablo news, we can still do a show
Hmm.
because well, amazingly enough, what was it? 2 weeks ago, we did a 2-hour show and there was absolutely zero Diablo news. So,
Yeah, I am fully aware of that one.
hmm
Um,
yeah,
and yeah, it's something that we've gotten. We usually get emails, or normally it's comments on YouTube about there's nothing going on in the game. How can you possibly talk for 2 hours? Like,
yeah,
because we're passionate. That's why.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then that was actually the episode that we brought you on as a guest.
Hmm.
And with the 40-minute interview and then some extra audio at the end, it ended up being just a scant 3 hours. So
That's all. That's
yeah, that's
all.
all.
Yeah.
Just 3 hours.
I'm sorry I talk. A lot.
We all talk, and if we didn't talk, I guess nobody would listen. So it's
This
a good thing that we talk.
this is true. This is true. This is an angle I had not considered.
Yes. Yeah. Nobody can listen to you if you don't talk. So,
Mm-hmm. Wise words. Is that like a Confucius saying?
sure.
Let's go with
Yes.
that. We'll
Yeah.
roll with it.
So,
Um, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, like going through and talking with the lack of news, because last week Thunderclaw and I kind of stretched things, but going into this week we have even less. There's not even less. There's less for us to talk about. Nothing new going through and coming out. I know the only thing really big going on, Grimiku released a couple extra fresh meet and greets across the community. I think he had a monk, a witch doctor, and a wizard that he focused
mhm.
on. Those community figures from those forums, you can always go through and check out. And we have the vote for the Play Your Way coming up tomorrow. If you're listening live, it will be June 4th. Will be the vote for the Play Your Way. You get
Yeah.
to
So a
pick.
wizard will win and won't show up.
Exactly, as that is the status quo of whenever the wizard is featured in the rotation of the four heroes. But I'm really excited for that one, just because it's going to be a time that we have to go and press whoever Nevilistus wrangles in order to be a part of that stream. We get to really press them for information about 2.3. When are we getting anything? When are we getting any news? When are we getting the PTR? Hopefully, some
Yeah.
some news or anything along those lines.
Well, I guess if a crusader were to win, I guess that would mean Josh would come on, right?
That would be interesting. That would be cool.
It would
Uh,
be fantastic. I would love to see Josh on that.
yeah, I'm actually surprised that they've not been able to get him on it sooner. It seems like it'd be something that he would love to do, since he really likes the community outreach and being a part. Because he's always the person that's going out and doing talks and speeches at the GDC and things of that nature.
Yeah. But go Wizards, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm all about the monk now.
Hmm. Or so you say.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, of course.
of course, for
But
the
you know
time
what?
being.
We can talk about Diablo 2. The ladder reset happened. Of course, that happened last week.
Yep, that went through last Tuesday. We mentioned it briefly on last week's episode. We were we were supposed to go and do a stream this past weekend, but for obvious reasons, that didn't really go through and happen. It's something I still want to do. I might try and go and do one. It's not going to be on this channel. That would be on my channel, Neinball. So it'd be twitch.tv/Neinball. I might try and do one Sunday evening, depending upon how things go. I'll have to go and see if how I can work my schedule around, because it's something I still want to do. Still love Diablo
Yeah.
too. Want to play? Haven't played a Necromancer in forever.
Uh, why does everybody love the Necromancer?
Because they're cool.
Oh, but yeah, I created a druid, went hardcore. Boy, that's totally something different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Act 2. That's about I'm still alive, and druids are pretty boring. So there you go. I should have went with a sorceress. So
Yeah, it's Diablo 2. Going back and playing it nowadays, the early game is rough, really rough. Having
yeah,
to go through,
extremely.
yeah, pick up everything, run back to town, identify it, have to buy the scroll or something along those lines, or I have to search around for potions. I barely have enough gold to
Hmm.
even buy a couple pots, and just you're like, well, I'll put some points into vitality so I can run more, but then I'll put some points into strength, but it doesn't really up my damage any.
Hmm.
It's weird. And then all of you have basic skill selection. You can't really do anything. It is a little bit of a culture shock going back from what we have today to
Hmm.
what was like our secret love of yesteryear.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you'd get some equipment and you'd have it all planned out. You'd be like, all right, so for the first 38 levels, I am just going to run around with a level 1 fireball
Hmm.
because and because it won't be until then, and I'm only going to put, like, what is it? I'm trying to remember the strength levels that you had to have in order to equip everything that you wanted as a sorceress. I think
Oh
it was
yeah.
probably in the 70, I think maybe 75. That might be a little high. I don't quite remember, but yeah, you'd have everything planned out and you'd be like, yeah, this is great. It's fun. It was, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Things have changed.
Yeah, especially when you're going back in and starting new, and you don't have any gear with which to like pre-plan out what you're going to get. And I guess it's also different because it's like you go into it knowing I'm not going to be spending a lot of time playing this. This is for nostalgia purposes, and that's about it.
Yeah, I lasted all 2 days. So.
Hmm.
Still alive. Maybe I'll go back.
Yeah,
It's the first time I ever played hardcore in Diablo 2, so that was that was a shock too.
that
So,
in that's rough. It really is. You get into some of the areas, like if you run into like the champion packs of the archers, like in the cave, or
mm-hmm,
specifically when you get into like the jail, where you'll have the archers sitting shooting at you from an area you can't get to just yet,
right.
and then the
Mm-hmm,
wraiths coming through the wall and attacking and draining all of your mana, slowing you at the same time. It was just like, well,
mm-hmm.
need to get out of here. Can't do it.
Yep.
I lost the first couple hardcore characters I created after I started playing hardcore in Diablo 3. Went back, played Diablo 2 for a little bit, and I think I lost like 2 or 3 assassins in the jail level just trying to get through it. It was bad,
Oh
really bad.
boy. Yeah. But yeah, so it's so I would love to see a patch 1.14 for Diablo 2. Just bring some quality of life changes. Then I'd
Yeah.
play it again. But
Yeah, they might get around to it. There are a couple hamsters in that wheel still, but
mhm,
it's like a small team. I think it's like maybe 5 or 6 people. I don't know the exact figure, but it's just a single team that's in charge of all of the retro games, all of the
mhm.
updates, bug fixes, and such. And they do go around. And it was around the time of the Diablo 3 launch. They did do like one last kind of content update for
Mhm.
Diablo 2.
Yeah. But so um what else do we have to talk about? I guess I can
Yeah,
talk about what I've been up to.
yeah, definitely. We don't want to forget how what was your weekend gaming?
Yeah, so I did some Diablo 2 last week. Then just I think on Sunday I was in a four-player group in Diablo 3, and I was playing with, I think, two Aussies.
Hmm.
And I was up really late. Okay, I was up really late, and uh, had another. So we were running through. We started with the Greater Rift. I think it was 21, and then we did a 31, and then we did a 41. Absolutely smashing everything, and then we did a 46, and I was playing as my Z DPS pole monk,
Hmm.
um, and I was having no problem staying alive. And then we popped the Guardian, ended up being Veracity, and we were on
Mm.
everybody's favorite tile set from Act 5. Um, the Stone Plateau tile set.
Yeah,
Everybody loves.
the inside the Realm Walker.
Yes.
Hmm.
And that's not a fun map to fight Veracity on.
Oh no.
And so I was the monk. We had a ZDPS Fear Doc, and we had a Whirlwind Barb, who I thought was providing more DPS than he really was. And we had a Demon Hunter, who was providing the lion's share of the DPS.
Hmm.
And then into party chat, I see shit, and I was like, what? And then I looked up at the life bars, and his was empty, and I was like, oh no,
Oh
no.
no.
And I was like, oh, that sucks. And I was like, oh. He was like, avenge me. I was like, okay, we will. And after about maybe 5, 6 minutes, we were like, no, we won't. We
Yeah.
don't have any DPS. So it's like, okay, well, that was a lost cause. And then I was like, all right, it's 4 a.m. I need to go to bed now.
Hmm.
So, but to honor my fallen comrade, because he was in my clan, I decided I've been curious about the Demon Hunter,
Hmm.
and since I'm playing a monk this season primarily, I have a whole bunch of dexterity gear, so I thought, well, why not? And I got a Demon Hunter up to 70. I think I have 4 pieces of Marauder.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten the unhallowed essence other than the shoulders to drop.
Gotcha.
And having a lot of fun with the Demon Hunter. Still not fully geared out to the point where I'm pushing anything, but um, leveling up gems because Demon Hunter uses a completely different set than my monk does. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I gotta level up gems now. Woo! So that's
The
what I've
thing
been
that
up
you thought
to.
you were done with.
Yep. Yeah,
Mm.
no, you're never done leveling up gems, not in hardcore at least.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. You lose a couple, level a couple, lose a couple, level a couple.
Yeah, and before you lose those gems, you might as well just level up some backup gems. So
Mm-hmm.
for when you do lose them.
Yeah, it's always a good thing to have. And this, I know, just this season is the first time that I actually started practicing that, just because of the experience that I had a couple weeks ago, or just going through and still, still has a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, at least you didn't lose 3 characters in one week.
This is true. This is true. It could have been worse. It very well
Yeah,
could have.
yeah, it could have been worse. You could have been starting way back at square one with
Hmm.
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I've
But
gotten
what have
back
you
up
been
there.
up to?
For myself, unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time to play Diablo this past week since the last show. I did just start a new job, and the trainings have normally been kind of like towards the middle of the day. It's like a really like high-end theater that they do. Like it's like a full-service restaurant, so they dine in the theater. We even have like a barista in a bar in the lounge, and like a big screen TV playing sports and all that other types of stuff, just like in the regular lounge area. And they're grand opening in a couple weeks. So I've been going through and doing the training there. The one day off that I did have this weekend, I went over to the hobby shop to play some Warhammer 40k. And now, for the listeners that have been following for a while, a couple episodes ago, I proclaimed that I finally broke my losing streak and won the 40k league that we had been doing. Well, apparently that's come into question
Uh-oh.
because, yeah, uh, myself and my teammate, we won our side of the bracket on the semifinals and went into the finals. And then on the other side in the semifinal, they tied. It was like a 6-hour game, and they came to a tie. And so they've been trying to reschedule to play against one another. And then what happened is one of the people on the other team just said, "I can't do it." He has some health problems and such, and just said, I can't do it. I can't do another 6-hour game, so I'm just gonna step out. So what they did is they took one player from each of the two teams that tied on the other side. We're gonna team up and play us in the finals. At the last minute, one of the players backed out, so
Oh,
we just played the other team. Because the other guy just said, "Oh, I can't play. I forfeit. You guys just go through and play." So we played the other team. We beat them. We won, and we were champions. Now the other team that both of them backed out came in and were saying, "Well, we never really got our chance."
oh my goodness.
Because he's the one that won last week, so his championship is more or less on the line. It really means nothing. There's no prizes or anything like that. It's just in title alone. And so they wanted to go through and play, but it's like, but you haven't even won your semifinal match yet. The other team was like, screw it, I don't even care anymore. So we went and played them this weekend on Saturday. It was another 6.5 hour match,
Oh, geez.
played to
Why
a
do you do
tie.
this to yourself?
I I don't know. I don't know. It's fun, but yeah, it's the exact same thing that happened. 6 hours, only 3 turns, 25 points on both sides. The exact same match that they had played before. If the mission that we rolled, the objectives that got placed, and the cards that we drew for scoring our points were completely in their favor the entire match. We came through just through some secondary objectives and just obliterating them off the field. Had it gone another couple of turns, we would have tabled them, killed every single last one of their units. But as it stood, with everything stacked against us, we still managed to tie. Um, And now we're just like, well, what the hell is going to happen? And so they're still trying to decide. I I'm basically, well, we've kicked everyone's ass and tied you. You haven't even gotten into the finals themselves, so we'll let you all decide. We'll just sit here in the final and we'll have the champion in waiting, title for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some interesting things, and just like, I guess, what really comes down when people get competitive, like the different personalities that can come out, where you can at one time say, well, I'm just going to forfeit and you all can play for the championship. Well, I never got my chance, so I'm not going to allow it. It's like,
Dumb.
what were you
It's just straight up dumb.
what were you expecting? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know how that's going, but yeah.
Well, that's all right. When you persevere and you win, in the end, you'll feel even more um, exalted.
It'll feel that much better. It'll feel that
Yep.
much better for
True champions
sure.
overcome.
Exactly. Um, and now is normally the section where we would be talking about news, but like we said earlier, there really is none. So I kind of was talking with Nevik here earlier and going and doing some speculation on patch 2.3. When is it coming? Where is it going? When can we expect it? What do we see about it? Just to kind of, I guess, give some insight, because around in the community, just going around looking at some of the posts that are on the official forums on Reddit and such, and it just seems to be more of the same. Well, just like we were talking last week, the solo versus group play discussion has come up a lot. I know it had Ty Valier, responded to a couple concerns on the forums a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is not, we've been talking about it, I think, almost every episode for the last month and a half, so I don't want to continue to drive that point into the ground, since this really continues to be the same big topic of conversation within the community. But
Well, we could
yeah.
talk about flying and Draenor.
I'd rather
Oh,
not if it's
whoops.
all the same to you. Oh God, I can only imagine what the World of Warcraft podcasts are going through with that one. Um,
uh,
yeah, as far as I guess one somewhat related thing in news, Johanna the Crusader got released in Heroes of the Storm.
yeah, she's fun to play. She has such a fun kit. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. It's funny though. There seems to be a pretty big split on opinion on her ultimates.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm pretty pro on her shield bash, or not shield bash, shield throw,
Mm-hmm.
shield toss, whatever the proper.
Blessed Shield.
Yeah, Captain America
There you
shield.
go.
Yeah, I like that one because it has a lot more utility,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a team fight changer.
Oh
So
yeah, and a 2-second stun on the initial target.
yeah.
In Heroes of the Storm, a 2-second stun is huge. That is forever. That is a year and a day when you're in the
Hmm.
middle of a team fight.
Yeah. And then there's everybody else who seems to love Falling Sword because it's great for catching people,
Mm-hmm.
when they're running away. And that's great, but Johanna, she's not really she doesn't really deal a whole lot of damage. I
No.
mean, you actually have to kind of pick her, I forget, is it a 13 or is it 16 when she gets the burning aura?
I
I
I think that's
forget.
13. I think 13
Yeah.
is the Burning Rage, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to pick that if you want to do even a moderate amount of damage.
Mm-hmm.
But oh man, condemn is so amazingly useful. There's you can set up so many combos with condemn
Mm-hmm.
and it's on such a short cooldown and you can make it shorter.
Yep. I was
It's
uh,
great. I
yep.
love it.
I was playing some matches last night after the show with some friends, and one was playing an Arthas, and we got pretty good on that combo of just going through using the condemn and then him shooting out the root, like
Hmm.
right in front of where I was, so that way when the condemn would go off, it would pull the person in, stun them, root them, and then it's not really, nothing was surviving that unless you're like an ETC, because he can survive anything. But
Yeah, and then it synergizes really well with if Kael'thas, he can drop his Phoenix right on your feet
mm-hmm.
and Oh, and not to mention, Jaina also works with that. She can drop her Ring of Frost on your feet,
Mm-hmm.
and then because you're pulling people into you, you're blocking that center section, so that everybody's gonna get frozen there. Oh,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just it's so good,
Yep.
so very good. I saw it on the Brawl with the Blues today.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, they were straight up bullying other teams. It was insane.
Yeah, she has a very powerful skill set, even though
Hmm.
she doesn't really have that great damage. And it's strange going and saying that, because most heroes, they're kind of weighed on, well, how much damage can you do? Even like the big tanks, like, Diablo he was considered like the best tank after the Stitches nerfs. He's still kind of up there. Not as good as some of the other ones, but his damage is always still insane. Same thing with
Yeah.
Anubarak. I've found a build with Anubarak where I wreck the hero damage,
Yep.
by the end
Just
of the.
straight up Beatles.
Yep, even though I'm a tank and I've built a lot of tanky talents, a lot of health regen and such, but it's just you can do so much damage. Johanna doesn't really. I haven't really found that spec for her yet, where she can compete with other classes as far as the damage goes. But
Hmm.
man, her utility. She's got a slow, a stun. She has an on-demand, unstoppable ability. The
Hmm.
blessed shield is another stun. Just a lot of utility that she's got going on there.
Yeah, she's got an amazing kit,
Hmm.
and I really want them to bring out a monk now.
Yeah, Diablo. We still need a Diablo support character, so I can go through and finish that daily.
Yeah, and I guess the StarCraft guys are like, wait, we need a
Warrior,
warrior.
yeah. They can just throw, like Phoenix in there.
Yeah,
You don't
sure.
play StarCraft, so you'll just have to take whatever I have to say for granted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do really enjoy her. She's she I guess it's kind of set up as a melee crusader. Obviously, her skills are condemn, punish. She has the laws of hope, iron skin, blessed shield, or falling sword, and
And a blessed hammer as well.
yeah, blessed hammers in there. But did she have anything else?
Mm,
Shield glare. That was it.
yes,
Just trying to
shield glare.
remember the other basic ability.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of fun. If you play Heroes of the Storm, I definitely recommend going and giving her a try. If you want to be the number one on damage, she is not the hero to pick. If you want to be a tank, or if you want to be a great utility person that can, just hold on and stick to people like nothing else to set up other team kills, then she is a hero for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for the pro scene,
Mhm.
um, to see how she starts fitting into the meta, because arguably Muradin came out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden Muradin's loved again. It's like, what happened?
Mhm.
You know, Diablo gets a little squishy in the beginning and nobody picks him anymore. And ETC is still super popular.
Mhm.
And then Anubarak, just that little Beetle AI fix, and all of a sudden everybody's all like, "Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
Anubarak!"
they did two things to Anubrak. They improved the Beetle AI and they slightly increased his damage scaling, and now he is a god. You
Yeah,
know,
he is pretty good. He's really squishy. He's what, the only warrior that doesn't get any form of block, but he has his
yeah,
carapace shield, so.
he's got the Carabas shield, and he still can take hardened skin at 20.
Hmm.
Which, and at that level, the a team fight will probably be decided in those first like 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Breaking away from the Heroes of the Storm, sorry, we kind of ranted there, but back into the main topic of conversation, the patch 2.3. Um, just I guess to set up some background information on that, we know that Wyatt Chang mentioned their goal for season 3 is about 4 months, which would put it around season 3 ending around August. Now,
Right around my birthday, actually. So,
oh, your birthday's beginning or
middle.
middle of August?
Yeah.
I'm the
So,
27th.
yeah, like, like I said, around my birthday, not
Yeah,
on my birthday. So,
yeah, gotcha,
obviously,
gotcha.
we don't have inside information. No.
I, yep, I like August birthdays because mine is in August as well. So
Yeah, August, you know,
Great month.
August is a great month,
Mm-hmm.
except for when you start school in
Yeah.
August, like my daughter does. So
So she probably doesn't like August too much.
she actually, sorry, this small little side tangent. This is, if anybody's listened to the Shattered Soulstone, this is, very common. But my daughter, I think she starts her school year starts on
Her birth year. Yeah.
August 14th. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like just 4 days from my birthday. It's like my poor daughter. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, at least 4 months. So
Mm-hmm.
at August time frame, we're almost 2 months into season 3 now. So um, if they keep with the past couple PTRs, it's got to be soon,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe immediately following E3. So
Yeah. And just a little side tangent. Apparently, 3 Days and I are birthday brothers. He is
oh,
also born on August 27th. Nice. I will wish you a happy
too
birthday. I will
too
remember that.
bad you aren't Leos.
Virgos are better.
Of course,
Of course.
of
Uh,
course, says the Virgo.
yep, of course. But yeah, it's just one of those things. We know that they said that their goal is going to be 4 months, which would place it around the beginning of August. Previously, these big patches have been about a 2 month PTR.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you were saying, they would have to start it up like almost immediately after E3 or slightly
Before,
before in
yeah,
order to like kind of hit that mark, which means we kind of need to start knowing some information about patch 2.3 sometime soon. I would think that they might start some first looks before they do the PT before they actually open up the PTR.
yeah. I, I'm I'm just hoping that they're not waiting to start the deluge of information until it actually starts raining here in California again.
You might be waiting some time for that one then.
My front yard is dying. It's terrible.
Hmm.
Yes. So yeah, I'm excited because we're getting what a new let's see, what new witch doctor set, new monk set, and new crusader set.
Um,
Is that what it is? Because we
I
got the
think
wizard,
so.
barb, and demon hunter. Yeah. So
Yeah, so it's gonna be a new Crusader set. And I think they also are going to be reworking one of the Crusader sets. I think they're reworking Invoker and making that a Crusader, or maybe they were making that a General. I don't remember. But I know that they are going to be reworking Invoker. I just don't remember whether it's going to be like a Crusader only or for anybody.
yeah, I could that helm on that set. It's hard to make anything work with it. I've
Hmm.
tried. I
Nope.
tried to transmog with it.
That
It's not
that
possible.
well, that is why transmog exists, so that way you can change those horrible fashion decisions.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely hoping that we get something soon. I also am hoping that this is the patch that we get the Ruins of Shesharon in. It's kind of been, they haven't gone out and said whether or not it will be in patch 2.3, because it did get pulled um, from, what
Well,
was it,
it didn't
2.1?
get pulled.
Yeah, it didn't
It
get
was
pulled.
never
It was
promised. It was
never
just
promised.
future
Exactly,
content. It was
future content.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh I'm honestly I don't think we're gonna see it in 2.3.
Really?
Um I still have the sneaking suspicion that it might have been the earliest that we've ever seen any expansion information without it actually being expansion information. So um don't quote don't
Hmm.
that's just my own personal feelings.
Gotcha.
It could very well happen in 2.3. Just I
Hmm.
would not be surprised if we did not see it in 2.3. So
Yeah, I guess I'm still gonna go and hold out hope. Just it. I was surprised to not see it in 2.2, just because they had so much to show off and so many of the art assets for the enemies done at BlizzCon already, that I
mm,
am wondering what it is that held them back. Maybe they were too focused on
it's that
doing the adventure mode revamps for
yeah,
all the previous zones, the bounties, for all the other zones, and so they didn't have time to work on the bounties for the Ruins of Shesharon.
yeah. I was gonna say it's got to be that cat mojo that held it back.
Mr. Pickles,
Yes,
I believe is the official name.
for some reason Mr. Pickles in Ruins of Shusharon, they are like peanut butter, you know. But have you seen that thread on Reddit talking about how they would love to see Leoric's Manor turned into some tile set for Rifts?
Yes, I
I
did see
I
that
am
one.
I am on board with that. I would love to see that happen.
Definitely, because I didn't really think about it too much until I saw that post that is the only instance of that particular tile set,
Hmm.
in the game. There's nothing else really like it that you can go and find. So I wonder. The one thing that I could see holding them back on that one, or maybe getting around to it eventually, I guess if there's enough want in the community, they could go and do it. But it's one of those handcrafted. It's always the same sets.
Hmm.
There's no variation to it. They'd have to create tons of new assets in order for that to be added
Yeah,
back in.
it'd be so much work, but oh, it would be worth it. It would be so worth it.
It would be. That makes me think, what other tile sets could they use, or could they go through and create that haven't been used yet, in the game?
Well, they could expand upon the whole Whimsydale and Whimsyshire idea,
Hmm.
and instead of having the happy clouds being an item, we're on top of the happy clouds. We're just, and then we could have the bears. They would have a new attack. They would have a stare attack.
I wonder where
I'm
you got
sorry.
that
Where's
idea
those
from.
crickets?
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, there's some other places I'd like to see, like maybe Chaldeum. Like maybe like the palace sets,
Yes.
palace tile sets.
Hmm.
Or even just the city tile sets would be interesting. Going and fighting through farting through a marketplace, fighting through a marketplace.
Well,
Um,
there are enemies that fart.
yes, there are. There are. Veracity being one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's some interesting things. I do wonder what else they have working on, since there is a portion of the team that's working on designing new tile sets for Rifts in the first place. We had the first one was Cesspool, which was pulled from the initial release of the game, was going to be a zone that you could go to in Westmarch. But I think it was going to be like you had the plague tunnels in the commons, and then it was going to be the cesspool you would get in the um, what's the two different zones? It's commons and
Heights.
heights. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
In Westmarch Heights, it'd be
Yeah.
the two. Yeah.
Instead we get that bone repository that pops up as a tile set all too often in Rifts.
Hmm.
I'm sick to death of that tile set as well.
I really like it. It's a great, really interesting tile set, but just the
I
fact that you have to go in like six different directions to find out where it is that you have to go to continue on. It's always the hardest one to find the
hmm
uh, the exit to the next level.
Yes, it is, and
It
that's the reason why I dislike it so much.
mm-hmm, is definite pain. Um, yeah. I'm hoping that also in 2.3 we'll see like the revamp of Helltooth and what they could possibly doing there. I mean, we've seen them talking about wanting to like redo Wall of Zombies. They've gotten some inspiration from the Wall of Zombies and how it works in Heroes of the Storm, as
Hmm.
well as uh, I think it was John Yang talking about that they've held off on redoing Helltooth because they wanted to redesign Wall of Zombies itself and change its functionality before they worked on a set for it.
Yeah,
I don't know
it
if I'm making that up. Um, I could swear that's something that I've heard during one of the streams.
sounds very vaguely familiar, but one important thing is if Wall of Zombies does function like it does in Heroes, hopefully you can make it go back down just by pressing the button again.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I can see some definite trolling going on. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
haha, you need to get out of that molten explosion. Here, let me just drop a circle of zombies around you.
Hmm. Or if I guess they would just also have to make it. I'm sure they
Have no
can go through
collision
and code it.
detection for players, I
Exactly.
guess. So,
It's something they can do. I don't know how much work that they would have on the back end, but you don't cause collision with yourself or with like pets and such. So
Yeah, it wouldn't, but that would be fun.
Mm-hmm. That would be that's going back to the necromancer from earlier in the discussion.
Yes.
So many times you're in a bot game, ready to go through. They just killed the minions of destruction. You're about to follow Bale through up to the throne, and then or the Worldstone Keep, and then just all of a sudden, just a million bone walls appear on the ramp up, and you can't get in there. So just the one guy in the bot go in, kill Bale, take all the items before you can even get into the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. Player griefing at its finest.
At its finest. I haven't really heard too many stories about player griefing lately. Because they've patched out most of the ways. It would always surprise me how much people would do to find a way to grief people in games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything
Yeah.
from just like pulling mobs into Tristram till they had to change that so that it's it's an actual toggle entrance. But then they went through and found that you could do the same in Caldeum. That people, if someone would join the game, that if you're in the city, they would like spawn in at the city, or they would take the banner to the city, and you could pull in tons of mobs into it because it's considered it's a safe zone. Um, but everything will just come in and kill you because you can train huge monster packs in there, bees,
Mm-hmm.
tons of bees.
All the bees.
What about yourself? Do you have anything that you're expecting or hoping for in patch 2.3?
I'm maybe some. I would say some more expanded community features. Like clans and community features, but that's a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how busy that the Battle.net team is, I mean, I'm very glad that we can finally see how long people have not been in game.
Mm-hmm.
That has helped immensely.
Yep.
It's like oh, you haven't played Reaper in what, 8 months now? What's wrong with you? You're
Yep.
just clogging up a room in my clan. Get out of here.
Pretty much. That is definitely nice, but we do need. There are a lot of things that can be done to improve the clan interface, like even just being able to set like officer notes and such, so you can go through and see like, this person's great at helping out new people, or just being able to set a note for other officers that this person got out of line, I had to have a chat with them, they're on final notice. If you see them causing shit in clan chat, that's it, kick them,
Hmm.
type thing.
Yeah, but trying to think of just Warglaives of Azeroth, please,
Is
please.
that before or after Frostmourne?
Before, always
Uh,
before.
ah, I still I would like to see some. I'm trying to think of the hunter bow from Classic. It's
Oh,
just
oh my goodness, what was the name of that bow? Oh, my best friend got it. That was also that was a very involved quest line to get
hmm
that bow too.
yeah. Or I'm just trying to think of that or the one that dropped off of Kil'jaeden. The only legendary bow, just to throw something so that way demon hunters can have something special too.
Well, the Warglaves of Azeroth would be Demon Hunter only. Come on, let's live the
So
dream.
yeah, so I can see it now. So it is the offhand is actually considered a quiver and has a legendary effect that allows you to use it with a melee weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you have the other one, which is the main hand and a melee weapon, so you can effectively somewhat dual wield.
Yes, and yes, just like trying to get the bindings for Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Treasure Goblin Spooker. Um, there would be two of them, and you'd have to get them both.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to make them as rare as well, they're not as rare anymore, but what is it, little rogue and the slanderer.
Yeah, the little rogue set.
Yeah. Oh, I wish that set was a little more interesting because those are really cool looking blades.
Yeah, I wonder if that's one that they're going to come back around to redoing to try and make effective. I mean, they made focus and restraint, best in slot, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I will tell you that when the last time they did the Player Way stream, Donvu mentioned that they were leveraging the Shenlong fist weapon set for monks
Hmm.
into being useful for seven-sided strike, and I was like, okay, well, can he say Shoryuken on every single strike and have him do an uppercut? Oh, it'd be so
Hmm.
great. Uh,
Shoryuken.
yeah.
That would be amazing.
Oh, or
It's the one thing that the monk needs: more Street Fighter.
yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Because oh man, those fist weapons they're so useless right now. I mean they really are useless.
Hmm.
I I've I have ancient versions of both. Still can't do anything with them. So
Yeah. And was it the Barbarian, the Bulkathos sets, the Bulkathos weapon set? That has a lot of use out there for whirlwinds.
yeah,
People go back and forth between that one and the IK Boulder Breaker, depending upon
yeah.
what it is that you're going for. Or if you can make a break point. There are a couple Natalia's sets that work with Danetta's, surprisingly. Is that
Hmm.
Danetta's found their way into a Greater Rift 50 plus build.
Yeah, I had a Danetta's drop for me at 67. So I was happy about that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I salvaged it.
uh, it's great if you're going for Speed Racer.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I still haven't gotten the 50 million gold conquest, so I might try to do that with the Demon Hunter. Just for some reason, it feels a lot easier because you can more consistently move quickly as a Demon Hunter than as a monk, unless you stack a ton of CDR.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you ever see Leviathan's video that he did for that one?
yes, just whirlwinding,
Yeah,
almost quite
it's
by accident. It's
it
like,
is it is that easy. Just spin to
yep,
win.
yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So you
I
also
mean,
have to be able to clear, what was that? I think it was like a level 37 Greater Rift in like almost full gold find gear.
no, it couldn't have been because a Greater Rift
Or
doesn't
not
drop
a, yeah, that's true. What am I thinking? I
yeah,
don't know.
Torment 6, of course.
Yep, Torment 6. Yep, I'm not here right now.
It's like if gold dropped in Greater Rifts, my monk would be golden
Uh-huh.
with a gold wrap. And they're like, yeah, I don't think we can let that happen in Greater Rifts. Because then people will have billions of toughness and
Mm-hmm.
we'll be shooting past Greater Rift 100. So,
Watson in chat is asking, what do you expect as far as lore in the new expansion? Uh, don't know. No, this is a topic that we talked about when I was on your show. It was something that we talked
yeah,
about with Thunderclaw last week.
yep.
What the hell not? We can talk about it here. This is all speculation. Anyways,
I still think we're gonna put Zoltan Cool back together.
that would be cool. Forgive
He's
the pun.
so I
I I
if
still
I
don't.
could go back,
Sure.
I would side with Zoltan Cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I still don't understand why we killed him.
yeah.
That
All that
was.
work for nothing.
Yeah, it was also one of those ones where just in the as far as the story goes, it just doesn't even make any sense. It's like you go through, you resurrect him, he goes to complete the Black Soul Stone, he finishes the Black Soul Stone, and then all the souls of the dead lords of hell get sucked into it, and then he's like, Nephilim, you're being tricked. Someone's played you. Someone has gone and sabotaged my work. You know,
Hmm.
you you someone you're being played, and then the Nephilim's like, cool, I'm going to kill you.
Yep, exactly. It's like,
Why?
how dare you call me a fool?
Yeah, it's just like, God, what is anyways, that do you remember some of the data mine stuff that was revolving the Devil's Hand back in the early Reaper of Souls files?
Very little of it, yes.
um I don't think that, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Devil's Hand, but it was the rift mechanic itself. There was a bunch of audio files that of Zoltan Kuhl, because instead of having Auric that would go through and open the Nephilim rifts for you, it was going to be Zoltan Kuhl himself. And there was apparently a little quest involved of having to go through and put Zoltan Kuhl back together. He was going to resurrect, and then he was going to help you because he was saying that there's all these other different realms that exist, and they're all trying to attack us. And so he would be opening. It wasn't so much like a Nephilim training ground. He was actually opening up realms or other dimensions that are trying to come in and invade Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were some interesting things about how like Zoltan Kuhl was kind of meant to come back, but I guess they kind of squashed that. But I definitely would
Oh,
love to see him. He
you know, we
is
totally
immortal.
could play off that idea, and even though it's not anything to play off of anything anymore, but you know, you could have Sargeras as a Rift Guardian boss. Yeah.
I mean, we already have a whole bunch of World of Warcraft items in there. We can go and throw
Yes.
in
Why
Sargeras.
stop there?
Yeah, exactly. We could fight, like Kerrigan or an Ultralisk.
Yeah.
Imagine
Lost
that.
Vikings.
Yep.
That would be a crazy fight.
Zombie Lost Vikings.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think.
It would be like the Immortal Kings fight in Diablo 2 at the top of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
oh man, that would be fun.
that would be cool. And it even works
So,
because they all have their own separate skill that only they can use.
yep.
Be a nice proxy.
Yeah.
I think
Or
an Ultralisk would be a great fill-in for a Siege Beast.
what was it? A long time ago, back before I think we even knew what Reaper of Souls was going to be. There was this going theory that we had all been played by good old Belial, and the you know Act Two going on forward was just all of us playing in his delusions, and that
Hmm.
we would wake up, and be like, "Whoa, wait a second, none of that was real."
I think it's been almost a year since I last saw one of those. It's Belial theory posts as far as the story goes.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's a perfect scapegoat.
it
If
is a
you want to
perfect
completely,
scapegoat.
if you want to change it, so.
It's still, that is just one of the most hilarious things, and like that kind of goes back into like, I guess, like the psychological study of people that believe in conspiracy theories, that they actively go out. Well, Belial is the Lord of Illusion and the Lord of Lies, so obviously, he wouldn't just be killed and that he's not actually there, and it's been him all along and all this other types of stuff. And I just have to sit there and hang my head. It's just like it is so. Some of these thoughts and ideas are just so like outright ridiculous. I don't.
Hmm.
They're just why?
Yeah, but jumping back a little bit, actually, this conversation sparked something that I'm hopeful to see in 2-3. We got Hamelin as a
Hmm.
Rift Guardian. I would love to see Mephisto,
Oh yeah.
Duriel,
Hmm.
and Dariel, Lilith. An actual Diablo fight that isn't super easy. I mean, even the Shadow of Realm Uber Diablo fight actually isn't that hard.
Hmm.
So something more like Malthael, because his fight trumps even Belial. So it was just
You're,
Diablo deserves better.
yeah, that he does. That he does. I still remember though the original Diablo before the Inferno nerf and before they nerfed him. You know, Obviously that was more of a gear issue and not a difficulty issue, but that was
Hmm.
insane in terms of the difficulty. I was playing a wizard at the time because it was the only way I could get past Act 2 and get any gear. I had to play a different class to gear up my monk. Um,
Right.
and that was one of those ones. I wasn't playing hardcore, I was playing softcore at the time, and I probably was hitting my head against a wall for 5 hours because it was one of those fights that if I make a single mistake, I died.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was just one of those ones. I just had to fully go in and focus. If I get caught by one bone prison, I'm dead. If I not paying attention when he goes through and starts up the lightning breath, I'm dead. If I go into the Shadow Realm and I don't kill my mirror image before he can cast his second arcane orb, I'm dead. Just so many little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but over the years, yeah, that fight's not anything anymore.
Yep. Which I am wondering what it is that they're going to offer. I know Hamlin, he's relatively difficult just because of he wouldn't be that bad if he didn't seal off the area. It's like he artificially increases his own difficulty because he limits where you can fight him. And so you're kind
Hmm.
of stuck in a limited area, and he's throwing, as the fight goes on, more and more of those little rat tornadoes that do a pretty
Hmm.
decent amount of damage. I wonder what they're going to do like that? Are they going to just focus on more bosses that might zone off the area that you fight them in? What they might have in store for us for the next set of bosses. Because Malthael, offered a pretty decent challenge. The other ones, Uzrael and Adria weren't that bad. You
Adria
know,
was a pain in the butt though, because if you didn't have the DPS, it's just you're constantly moving in that fight
mm-hmm,
because you could never stand in one place.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, her fight was actually pretty difficult. Even back when I wasn't playing hardcore.
Yeah. For me, I guess it's when the first time I fought her, I had a constant fear in my head because there was a lot of damage on the ground, but it was easily avoidable. You could move out of it, and it didn't hit you hard enough to just chunk you in a single hit. And so it was
Hmm.
one of those ones that it was a careful dance, and it was extended because my damage, wasn't exactly the best. But yeah, I guess I didn't really think too much of her just because I had the survivability that I had the time to move out of the attacks and dodge little bloodworms.
Yeah. And Mr. Stalky Hands has a question about, will Tathamet ever be in a Diablo expansion? I don't think so. I don't think we could ever really explore that, because if we kill Tathamet, um, doesn't that throw the world off balance? The necromancers would be very unhappy with that.
Yeah, and also Tathamet itself, like Tathamet, for those that don't know, back in the beginning of time, before the universe existed, there was Anu, who was a single entity. He took out everything that he encompassed all of creation. He ripped away all of evil from him, and that formed into a giant seven-headed dragon called Tathamet. They fought each other to the death, and Tathamet's corpse kind of fell, quotations, and became the burning hells, and the seven heads became the seven lords of evil. So Diablo, when he got all of the evils together in the Black Soulstone embedded inside of Leah, it became the prime evil. Was kind of tapping into a little bit of that power that was Tathamet, but still not exactly all of Tathamet, because, well, hell is Tathamet's corpse.
Hmm.
So that's kind of one of the things that kind of would go there. I don't think that we would ever fight Tathamet, but it is interesting if we might learn more about what it was, or try to see more of the plans of Diablo in being the prime evil. If there's anything else, if is did was he did he outthink Malthael? Is this all still going according to plan?
Oh, of course it is.
Of course.
I mean, we have that one animated short flick
Mm-hmm.
that the trap has been sprung. And
Wrath. Yep.
yeah, and I don't think we've completely seen all the machinations of that just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we have, then that's it. We're done.
Yep.
And
And if you've never seen Wrath, I highly recommend. It's about 15 minutes long. It's amazing. Um,
mhm.
and one of the whole premise of that is the reason, and they talk about this a little bit inside of Diablo 3 and Act 3 and Act 4 text, I think, with Tyrael. They talk about the one thing that even though heaven is outnumbered and more or less outgunned, the way that they manage to keep themselves in the fight and go toe to toe with the demons is because they're unified. The
Hmm.
Anguirus Council, they fight together as a team, whereas evil plots against one another. They almost broke down the Diamond Gates and flooded into heaven once before, but because they had almost won, all of the evil started bickering with each other, and they fought each other. Right
Yep.
there at the gates of heaven, they turned on each other and started killing one another, and then so heaven was able to come in and win. That's the only reason why they were able to hold, is because evil turned on themselves. And so that's why the primeval, Diablo being the primeval, is so scary, because it's a unified hell, is going to be able to go through and beat heaven, as we saw at the end of Diablo 3.
Yeah.
But this kind of the fracture of the Anguirus Council, of getting them to be ununified, started in that little short Wrath, and of course you can go through and see it. You know, the Malthael kind of falls into that a little bit. I don't know if it's directly because of the Primeval's plots or what have you, but it definitely kind of looks like it might have something to do with it, because Tyrael isn't an archangel anymore. He's just mortal. They haven't found a replacement for the Archangel of Justice. Tyrael's position within the Anguirus Council itself, if you've read Storm of Light, is kind of in question. It's one of those ones I don't even. It kind of left it a little ambiguous whether he's still the aspect of wisdom, or whether he's removed himself entirely from it. And then
Hmm.
now Malthael is dead, so it's really just Ithriel, Ariel, and Imperius. It's three where before there were five.
Yep. Yeah, and Imperius really he doesn't take too kindly to the Nephilim.
No, he does begrudgingly have a little bit of respect for him now, though I don't know with
Yeah.
the death of Malthael that's turned into fear. Um,
He should
but
be scared.
he should be. That going back into stuff that was not added in Reaper of Souls, there's one of the most awesomest things that I've ever seen. Was I don't know if it was going to be the area where you fight him, or not fight beside him, where he's blowing through all of the gates when you first get into the battlefields of eternity, or whether it was supposed to be an event where you're fighting up until the ram, or if the ram event replaced it completely. But there in the game files, there was quests and things associated where you were actually fighting alongside Imperius in competing with him while you were killing demons and reapers in order to get to the Pandemonium Fortress.
Oh, why?
Yeah,
Why did
it
that not make it
it
off the
had
cutting room
it
floor?
had all the strings in there and such, and you had to kill a certain number of monsters to progress on to the next phase, and it had a kill counter for you and a kill counter for Imperius, and you were
Oh,
going through and fighting alongside of him, kind of like a Legolas Gimli type thing where you're counting
yeah.
kills. And obviously it's whoever reached the max first would go on to the next event. And there was, I forget it now, I have to go and look it back up, but um, there was like little there are different uh, text files in there between Imperius winning and you winning, and like if you won, he begrudgingly gave you some respect. It's like not bad for a mortal or something along those lines.
Yeah. Oh.
But it's one of those ones. Imperius is one of my favorite characters. I know everyone thinks he's an asshole and that he's a complete and total douchebag, and well, I won't
No,
defend him in that respect, but
I
I
love him
love him.
too. I love him too. I just think he's going to be dead before we're done.
That unfortunately, because he's kind of he always has that antagonistic attitude towards the Nephilim, and especially if you read Storm of Light, uh, he he wants to obliterate Sanctuary. He wants to just kill all the Nephilim, kill all the mortals, remove humanity from existence. We're an aberration. We should never have come into existence. And the
Yeah.
only reason why he doesn't is because he's a military man. He follows the rule of law. The
Hmm.
Anguirus Council continues to vote not to destroy Sanctuary, and he begrudgingly abides by that. He will never go against the ruling of the Council, is the mentality of Imperius. And I hope that going into the next expansion that we don't have the breaking of Imperius, that we might see him develop I would love to see him developed more on the side of, like the council has voted to keep Sanctuary, and he fights alongside the Nephilim to help keep it. He abstained because he wasn't going to fight his brother, but what if there's another threat that we need, the help of the heavens again? Would he come in and help save us, type thing? I think that would be cool if they went that direction with his storyline.
Yeah. So maybe if there's ever Diablo 4.
If there's ever Diablo 4.
Yeah. But the one other thing from 2.3, before we tangent off too much more,
Mm-hmm.
the what were they called? Those little mini games, Cursed Realms, something like that, that were data mined.
Yes.
What were they called? Um,
I think they were called, obviously not the realm of trials that we know today, but I think they were just called trial realms. They were going to be little things that would randomly appear out in the world and would be little, trial events they ended up becoming cursed chests.
yeah. Well, no, there is the data mine files were like they're like little mini games. Droth Raider was talking about how it
Mm-hmm.
sounded amazing. Like you, none of your gear mattered,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was
Oh,
just
oh, yeah, the patch 2.2 stuff. Sorry, I was thinking about
yeah,
all the way back to the data mine Reaper stuff that never got added in. But
yeah.
yeah,
So
those
maybe we'll see that in 2.3 because I mean we
maybe.
got the wardrobe. Um, Actually, that's another thing I'd love to see in 2.3 is the wardrobe expanded to save gear sets. That would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
So, uh, yeah. So yeah, the Cursed Realms. That's exactly what they're called. Yes,
Hmm.
I'm hopeful that we'll see those in 2.3 because that'll be or two yeah 2.3.
Hmm.
I was like, wait a second, are we? And then I got confused on my numbers. Too many numbers.
Uh-huh. Too many numbers, too many patches going back and forth between them all. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is one thing I would like to see expanded upon, get an idea of what that is. Yeah, especially yeah, because that was one of the strings in the files is that like your gear does not matter, and it was like you had to collect. It was stuff like you had to collect like arcane motes, and there were different
Mm-hmm.
effects where um, after you picked one up, you would explode if you don't pick another one up in a certain amount of time, and you had to pick up 100. So it was almost like you had to constantly be moving and picking more up. Or it wasn't that you exploded, it's that as you moved, it would drop an explosion. So you had to
Right.
constantly move. You couldn't sit still, otherwise you would be destroyed. Otherwise you'd kill yourself more or less. It was a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And then yeah, like all monsters or like there'd be arcane sentries all over the place, and all monsters were had interesting or they were all molten, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It sounded like a blast, and I hope we get to see it in 2.3.
Yep. I really hope that we do get 2, 3, if it not August, September, not too long, because like we've been struggling for news here on the show, and I'm sure your show is mainly focused around the community aspect of it, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you've noticed it. It's just we're kind of in that middle of that Diablo drought. Though we
Yeah.
can be that picky now that we haven't had anything new in 2 or 3 weeks, so we can be complaining about it. I remember on the Diablo Gamers podcast, it'd be like 6 or 8 months between like content updates or I guess content previews because the game hadn't even been out yet. You're talking about real droughts. But
Yeah.
the season itself, I know originally I was like all for a 4 month season, but here, not even two months in, I can definitely see it's one of those season two only being 2 months felt too short. We're only 2 months in now, but it's the fact that I know there's still 2 months more in the future kind of drains on you a little bit when you log in to go through and try and play. And it's like, well, I've got time. I have time to achieve my goals. I don't have to log in today. I can log in tomorrow. I can do something else right now. Like Johanna was just released. That's it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the ooh piece of candy to
Yep.
go through and
Exactly.
focus on.
Um, it's one thing that I've mentioned on my show. I would like to see a little bit more downtime between the end of one season and the start of the next, because
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like, especially with the transition from season 2 to season 3, we had what, 4 days?
4 days, yeah, that was a little bit too short. I liked the 2 week period. Ended on a
I
Monday, started the Friday
yeah,
after.
I actually wouldn't mind it if it were more like 3 to 4 weeks. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, Leviathan had the same opinion. He would have liked more time in between seasons in order to just kind of like relax, wind down,
Hmm.
take a break from the competitive aspect of it, and then get back to it afterwards.
Yeah,
And of course,
and
is just that only really applies to seasonal characters. There's other people, like Jake, that doesn't play seasons. That it's just full bore,
mhm,
100% of the time.
yeah, yeah, good old JH.
Yeah, but yeah. The moving on, we've got a couple of emails here from some of the community members. I went through and emailed in. I only got two people that responded to the request last week to see where we stand as far as like kind of like the hardcore with a lowercase h community members that we have both in the community and the clan. Uh, so yeah, sorry. Last week I asked, what is your highest Paragon levels? Just kind of see, if we could get a feel for maybe who our highest person was, in the community.
Hmm. And if you're what, below 800, you're a scrub.
Yes, I guess I'm a scrub. Uh,
No, I'm a scrub too.
yeah.
So,
Um, this one was sent in. This came in from Victor. Um, he sent in a couple of things. He's over on the EU side. Um, he has a soft core Paragon level in the European realm of 650. This is non-seasonal, and a hardcore of 570. And then he's been playing on the U.S. since season 3. He's actually been playing on the U.S. servers, and he has a hardcore season 3 Paragon level of 461. He was one of the only people that went through and sent in because the only other person that actually responded to it is everybody's favorite, Leviathan. He's still around there. Um, he is currently setting the benchmark right now. His hardcore non-season is 792, and his hardcore season is 664. Um, so
he is
he's
a
kind of,
robot.
yeah, he
Keep that in
is
mind.
he is in fact a robot. So there you go. So that definitely is one of those ones up there. Though I guess technically he's not in the clan anymore, so I don't know if that counts. We'll leave it in. I like him, so we'll leave it in. And
Wait, he left the BlizzPro clan as well?
yep, he kind of had to.
Oh,
He kind of had just
I understand, but
he
still.
needed yeah, he needed a break. He really needed a break. And for anyone that's
Yeah.
wondering, I might as well use this opportunity. He's doing well. He's doing fine.
Yep.
He's great. He's okay. He and I are still friends. There's nothing that happened behind the scenes or anything like that. We're still in constant contact.
Yep.
Um,
He actually
so
posted a 8-minute video up on YouTube explaining
yeah.
what happened. So
Oh, I did not see that go up.
yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. Essentially, just like oh God, I can't believe I'm going to use this. Just like a necromancer, he's seeking balance in his life. So,
Hmm.
and he's been putting too much
Everyone.
focus on Diablo, and not other important areas of his life. So, I wish him all the best. I'm still very pleased to see him still pop on Diablo every now and then. So it's not like he's forsaken us, people. He's
Hmm.
still playing. It's just
Yep.
I I can
Everyone.
understand why he left the BlizzPo clan, because if he had stayed in, then he might get a lot more, like whispers, or just clan chat with
Yeah.
just. So I can understand that.
Oh yeah. If you're gonna go through and make a break, especially from something like the show, if you stop being on the show but you're still a part of the clan, then everyone's going to be whispering you every 5 seconds, why'd you leave? Why'd you leave? Why'd you leave? And it'll just be repeating the same answer again and again and again.
Yeah. So
Yep, I will definitely go through. I did not see him go through and post that yesterday. I'm such a
yeah.
bad friend, aren't I?
Well, it's not
um,
like you both live on the East Coast or something.
yeah, I know. Seriously. Yesterday is like was my day was what was it? It was like 12 to 8:30 went out, had dinner, got home, did the other show, and then just playing Heroes of the Storm because we were on a winning streak, and then went to bed at like 3 o'clock.
Oh, is that all?
Is that all? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Lovely
So
day.
so what level is your Johanna now?
She is 7.
Oh
I'm
wow.
yeah,
You did play a lot.
yes, I'm like 2-3 games from 8. I think I need like 500,000. So it's
Hmm.
like two decent games, and I'm there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I will go through and I will shoot that video up on Blizz Pro so that way people know why it is that he left. I'll actually post it here in the chat for people so that way you all
Hmm.
can know too. But yeah, so we do have Blue Right went through and sent us in. Blue Right also sent in some items, so we'll be getting to those. But he sent in a lore question. He wanted to know if there's any books that talk about the first Nephilim, as he you know he likes playing as barbarian, and he's so crazy strong, but he wants to know what about the first Nephilim? How powerful were they? And also wanted to just kind of like get an idea of like what's going on with the Soul Stone. Is it going to be appearing in the next? Is it going to be appearing in the next expansion? And just like where do the first Nephilim sit in terms of power level compared to like where we are now? There's
Yeah.
there's there's no book that features them like their story.
Yeah.
The,
And if there were, it'd be kind of like some weird demented Woodstock, wouldn't it?
Yeah, thereabouts. Because you're talking like a lot of those Nephilim were like the first ones were weird and just
Yeah.
it
Well,
was,
they
it
I mean
was
they were birthed from and angels and demons were coalescing and mingling, and
mhm.
there might have been some substance abuse back then too. So,
Ever so
yeah.
slightly.
And Inarius got up on stage and performed an amazing concert, and it would be a weird book. It totally wouldn't fit in with
Mhm.
the but hey, you know.
Yep. But if you do want to get a little bit more insight into it, the Sin War trilogy by Richard Knack does feature a couple of the first Nephilim, mainly Rathma and a little bit of Bolcathos. You get to see them. Rathma he's a big mover in that character. It also features a lot of Anarius and Lilith, and talks about the creation of Sanctuary in those first Nephilim, and just kind
Hmm.
of also goes to show what's his name, Ulyssin, Yul
Yeah.
Ulyssin.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. We'll
Yeah,
just call him the Big U.
yeah, the big U. He is like the Super Saiyan level 4 Goku type person from Diablo. He had, his strength was such that he was able to just kind of like stop time on all of Sanctuary and then kind of throw heaven and hell out of Sanctuary because they all had invaded. They were just going to destroy Sanctuary, and he's just like, no, stop, get out, and then bam. All the demons are ported back to hell, and all the angels are forced back into heaven. So
So essentially, it's if you've ever watched The Matrix.
he would be a good analysis. No, analog to Neo. There we go.
Yes.
I'm good with words. I swear. No, I don't. Ogchilds. There we
Yep.
go. But yeah, definitely. The Book of Cain and the Book of Cain mainly talks a lot about the creation of Sanctuary and about some of the early Nephilim, and the Book of Tyrael also features a little bit about some of the Nephilim as well. They're great um, little stories there to go through and check out if you want to know more about them.
Yeah. Yeah, the Book of Tyrael feels more like an encyclopedia more than the Book of Cain does.
Hmm.
So, but if you ever wanted a Wikipedia version of diablowikia.org or whatever that
Uh huh.
Diablo wiki, get the Book of Tyrael. That way you can read it on the toilet.
Mm-hmm. It's good for that. It definitely is. It's an
Yeah.
amazing book. It's got a lot of backstory and talks a lot about the characters. I mean, one of the selling points that I have, if you're a Diablo fan, a long-term Diablo fan, it has backstory on Pindleskin in the Book of Tyrael.
Hmm. Yes.
Need
Yes,
I
it
say
does.
more? You want to read this book?
Yeah.
Um, Let me check real quick because I don't know if they have it on the Blizzard Gear store. I think they do. I just want to check something real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry for the brief interruption here, folks.
I was
They
actually
do. They do still
okay.
have the Book of Tyrael on the Blizzard Gear store, and if you use the code BlizzPro at checkout, you can get 10% off all your purchases. I don't know if it'd be cheaper to get it on Amazon because of shipping and all other types of stuff. We don't get any money if you use that code. It's something they gave to fan sites that if you're a follower of fan site, you can get a discount. So if you ever buy anything at gear.blizzard.com, just use the checkout code BlizzPro, and you get 10% off of any of your purchases.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say I was looking into seeing if any of the other books were in Kindle form, and unfortunately they are not.
mm-hmm,
So because I was like, I would like to read all these books, but I don't want to have to go try to track them down,
mm-hmm,
because bookstores don't really exist anymore. I mean, there are a few,
mm-hmm.
and I was looking on Amazon. I was like, well, I could just order them, but I wanted that instant gratification,
Oh yeah, you
and
always do.
I have an Amazon Prime account, so Amazon Prime has a book rental system, and I was like, oh well, if they have those books, that'd be great. I could read a book a month,
Mm-hmm.
and no, so I was like, oh, dreams shattered.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I haven't read. You know what? Actually, I haven't read any of the books to completion except for the one book that I didn't read. I listened to, which was The Order, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a terrible Diablo lore custodian, but I do love the lore. So
Yep. It is definitely. It's one of the things that endeared me to the series was the story and all that. Just the fact that it. Once I found out that there was all that story in the Diablo 2 manual, I was hooked from like that point
mhm.
forward. Um, we also got another email here from Aculeus. I'm sorry,
I'm so
people.
glad I don't have access to these.
Yeah, yes, be happy about that fact. Um, the one suggestion that he had is just that he would like it if we went back to talking about class builds, and that might be with the news as of lately. That might be a section that we go and recreate on the show of bringing that back, specifically talking about a particular character, or a build, like the
Hmm.
stat loadout and such. But yeah, keep an eye out. That might be something that we go and do. But for the meantime, if you go to diablo.blizzpro.com, 3 Days does a weekly article, the Horadrim
Hmm.
Corner, that gives that. He goes and talks about a particular build for a particular class, the gear that's necessary for it, how you want to do your stat allocations. So that is one thing that you can go and find. He normally tries to do a different class every week, and then it will go and rotate into different builds. So that would be something to go and keep an eye on.
Yeah, I found that build breakdowns, they work best when you have the visual to associate with it at the exact same time. I
Hmm.
feel like you actually get more out of it instead of I mainly I'm a podcast listener, so when you're doing a build breakdown in just audio form, it doesn't the retention value is not quite there.
Hmm.
But when you watch a YouTube video, because there's tons, I mean, there's tons of videos on how to build a guide, and they're changing with every patch. So,
Oh yeah.
um, it's more effective, especially for me when I'm trying to learn how exactly to run a build. It works better for me to have that visual um, reinforcement at the same time. So, uh, sounds like a cop out answer, but Yeah, go. There's a bunch
Mhm.
of people on YouTube that you can follow and subscribe to them. Um, Datmods usually does it. Quincy. Oh, I'm
Oh.
sorry. These are all monks. Oops.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It
But
is funny.
Jake, you got Jake
Jace
the
the wizard.
wizard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, Moving on. Our last piece of feedback here is from Derek. And this one he actually is going and he's submitting a question about crashing rain. A couple episodes ago, episode 47, in fact, as he points out in the email, we were talking about a popular Natalia's build and about how crashing rain is kind of like the focal point of it. And he wants to know, why is crashing rain balanced, but Mortix Bracers wasn't? Especially with those that aren't familiar with the Nats builds. Crashing Rain accounts for like 90% of your damage. It makes it so that way whenever you use Rain of Vengeance, it does a strike of 3,000 to 5,000% or 3,000 to 4,000% weapon damage. Um, and of course, with Natalia's, it reduces the cooldown of Rain of Vengeance so you can go through and use
Mm-hmm.
it. And he wants to know, how is this balanced when you can go through and just spit out 4,000% weapon damage like it's nothing. And whereas, Mortix Bracers is like the difference between 50% extra damage or 50% damage reduction. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the answer to that one is because Crashing Rain on its own isn't that powerful. Crashing Rain is the only thing that makes the Natalia's build work. Because otherwise you'd have the set that wouldn't really do enough damage to be competitive. Crashing Rain is the only thing that makes it competitive, but you still need the whole rest of the set in order to go through and work. Mortix Brace just is a insane power jump
Mm-hmm.
for any barbarian build that's going to be using Wrath of the Berserker, particularly for being able to keep it permanent. And
Yeah.
Whereas that one takes you already being able to do a ridiculous amount of damage or having your survivability increased, and then now you're doing more damage on top of that with Mortix Brace, as opposed to Crashing Rain being the only way that you can deal damage. Though, from what we've been seeing and how it's played out more so since we're kind of gotten a lot more gameplay, on live than there was on the PTR, it does make me wonder if maybe Mortix Brace could be added back in the form that they had it. Would it be that much of a deal breaker? There is a little bit of um, difference, between barbarians and demon hunters, who are kind of like demon hunters are the top. It's 62 is the highest demon hunter and 58 is the highest barbarian on non-seasonal regular. And it does make me wonder, would would Mortix Brace really be the one item that makes up those four Paragon levels, or would that get them say to 60?
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I mean, you have to admit, having every rune of Wrath of the Berserker, that's just pretty insane.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is really crazy. Um, but it is one of those. It doesn't the game itself doesn't exist in a vacuum. You kind of have to look at it from the aspect of how the other classes are doing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might see it added back in. It might be a single. It might be just like a single rune that gets added in. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? Or they're pointing out there's actually on the seasonal side of it, a barbarian has reached 60 already. So I guess that is the question. That'd be interesting to go through and see if they were to like test internally, if they just added Mortix Brace back on, took that barbarian that did 60, give him a Mortix Brace, and see can he do 62. You know,
Yeah. Well,
don't know.
we won't ever know
Yeah, we
until
will
it's put
never
in.
know. And then just some of the, so that he has like just some little questions, in there. Do you think the item needs balancing? Do you think the item is too strong? What items do you think are too weak? Do you have any advice on Blizzard on balance? And lastly, why are you guys so awesome? I'm sure probably the last one. Um, was meant towards Leviathan, but he isn't here. I'm sorry. Because this one came in like the day that we were recording, before like the news had broke. So, from last week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And now already in chat they're going and starting the hashtag bring back Mortix Brace. It'll be interesting to see. You know, they had their reasons too in the beginning, but obviously whatever happens, you know, between the PTR and live, you just never get the same amount of playtime. You don't know how all the cards are going to fall. You know, I talked about this on the show back during the PTR, that Unhallowed Essence was like the kind of like the hotness, on the PTR, but it's because Natalia's wasn't really tested that much. People weren't really putting that much effort into testing it because Unhallowed Essence was the best. And it even took, a couple weeks after launch before Natalia's really kind of got that the king of Demon Hunter builds. So, it just takes time and testing and seeing how things actually work out. You come across a combo that you didn't have before, or you manage to get good enough gear to make the spec work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it got very little testing time on the PTR, and now it's the top build for Demon Hunter, for the Demon Hunters. So it's just some of those things.
Yeah, the other small part to that equation is gem levels,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean typically most high level groups they're running with 2 demon hunters, and you almost don't ever see a barbarian running with the group. I mean, you see crusaders and witch
Yeah,
doctors,
never
doing their
see a
support
barbarian
stuff.
running with the group because they're always 3 miles ahead. That's a different story.
Yeah, well, I don't think whirlwind would be quite effective at those high levels, but
Yep, yep.
um, but I mean, when you're looking at the numbers, like demon hunters, you know, head and shoulders above, and it's because they're still the top DPS class, and because they're running in those 4 player groups,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to push higher and get their gems up, to those higher levels, so that they can, eke out that last little bit of couple, percentage points that they need, and
Mm-hmm.
push that much further after fishing, for the right rift.
Yep.
So,
Especially when you have certain stones like one of the big Demon Hunter ones is Zeiss, because it's a multiplicative, whereas Bane of the
yeah.
Trap is or like, what is it, Taiguk, which is like an auto include for barbarians because you just keep it up the entire time. It's
Hmm.
not as good as you think it is because it's additive. It's so, if you get it up to um, say like if you get it to like up into the 50s, you have your 20% damage bonus, 25%, 30% damage bonus, but that just adds into any of the other damage bonuses that you have. So
Hmm.
if you have the rune with Wrath of the Berserker that increases your damage by 50%, it's it just adds, it doesn't multiply on top of that. Whereas like Zai's Stone of Vengeance is a multiplier. It will stack with like your Call of the Week, your archery passive.
Hmm.
So
So, yeah, yeah, it's the other side of the coin. So they could have left it in,
maybe,
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 and would have been interesting. That would be for certain.
yeah.
I mean, barbarians do need some love,
Mm-hmm.
and demon hunters have been top dog on terms of DPS for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if they get, if everybody else gets brought up to their level, except for the witch doctor. You know,
Poor witch doctors get no love.
yeah, never from me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But let's see. That was it for our feedback. There was actually one other piece of feedback that we got from YouTube, and that was that last week I forgot to actually say the stats of the items,
oh,
of the ones that we went through and showed. So our followers on iTunes and Stitcher fortunately just were told that there was this item and had to assume that it was really, really good. And I completely forgot to read off all of the stats. So that is something that I am going to change for this week as we transition into our items of the week. And as always, we have our Ancient Furnace, We've got to have it. Absolutely have to have it. This one was sent in. Sorry. This one was sent in by Jeff. I now know how to pronounce that name.
You mean you're sure it's not Geoff?
I'm sure it's not Geoff now. Um, and so, yeah, this one, he plays a witch doctor. He was going through and he was just
So
doing
this
some grinding for a
so this
dagger of
weapon's
darts.
wasted on him.
Yeah, yeah. He was trying to get a dagger of darts and had this drop for him instead. I was like,
Well,
it'll do.
yep, Jeff, it's time to roll a wizard now.
Yeah, or a Jade witch doctor if he wants to keep at least keep it within the witch doctor. It still is pretty good for that build, although that build itself isn't really all that hot, unfortunately. And it itself is weighing in at 4,241 DPS. He re-rolled 10% damage on the item. It's got 1299 intelligence and 1251 vitality. And of course, he went through and used a Ronald McDonald in order to get a socket in there. And then on the secondary stats, he got the 43% elite damage and 17,000 life after each kill.
Yeah, so not too shabby.
Yep, not too shabby at all. And then next here, Blue Right, as I mentioned, went through and sent us in his focus. He went through and just said, "Today I am focused," is the email that it went and came in. Now I just hope that tomorrow you're restrained to make it complete.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, this one, it's not ancient, but it still is really nice. It rolled 477 strength, and
Mm-hmm.
then he re-rolled the perfect critical hit damage of 50%. It itself rolled with perfect crit chance at 6%. And then on his secondaries, he got life after kill, 5,000 life after kill, and arcane resistance, and of course has a socket on it.
Yep.
Beautiful.
It's a pretty beautiful focus right there.
That it is. I am jealous. Even though I couldn't use the strength, that still is amazing. Just having the perfect crit damage and crit chance on there. This item we actually had sent in twice. This is a flying dragon that Manny had sent in, but someone else in the clan, Paige, saw this in chat, and their
Oh.
jaw dropped when they saw it, and they had to send it in because it had to be a part of the show. But Manny, of course, had this beautiful flying dragon sent in. Manny went and sent it in.
It's an
Um,
ancient flying D, folks.
Yep, ancient flying D, a flying diddle, as it was called. Uh, it rolled 4,405 DPS, um,
Gosh.
10% damage. It rolled 1856 to 2200 holy damage, so it's about perfect on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can only get like 10 or 15 points on the upside because I think what 2285 is the max. I can't
I'm
remember.
not sure, but sounds about right.
Yeah, 1252 dexterity and then 33,000 life per hit, with the secondary being 27 max spirit, and of course the chance to double your crit chance, and then the Happy Meal Ramalodni's Hamalama Ding Dong thrown in there for a socket. It
Oh my goodness.
it
That's disgusting.
it is a thing of beauty. It's an
I feel
absolute
sick.
uh-huh. And just just as Manny went through and said that this is the most amazing drop that he has ever had. And from what he's saying, nothing has been rolled on it.
Yep, nothing.
Yeah, it's so he could turn the life per hit into something else. Though I'm not really sure. You play a monk. What other stats would be good for this particular item? Because I know a lot of people have been saying that you need kind of that sustain for some of these monk
Uh,
builds.
if you need sustain, obviously life per spirit spent is way better than life per hit.
Mm-hmm.
So, or dare I say, if you want more power, go for, increased attack speed.
Mm-hmm.
But sustain is probably more important. So yeah, go for life per spirit. Because if you're running with an Ancient Flying D, most likely you're running with the Raymond set, and you're spending spirit all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, be pretty. Yeah, I'm pretty sick.
Yeah. Yep.
The only thing
There's
that would make me even more sick is if an Ancient Enchanting Favor was sent in.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because no one sent in one. You're good.
Okay. That item does not exist this season.
Yep. Neither for you nor I. I've not seen one either. Next, we went through and we had sent in a Natalia Slayer. This one came in from Alex. Uh, he went through and spent 200,000 blood shards before he found this thing of beauty. It
Wow.
rolled 3,400 DPS. He actually re-rolled the min max damage. He spent I I don't know if this is an exaggeration or not, but he says he spent more than 5 billion gold
Oh my goodness.
re-rolling the damage on this.
Wow.
I don't have it up on the stream itself, but it originally rolled pretty low on the average damage. And so he spent a lot of gold re-rolling that to try and get it near max, and he managed to get an extra 200 DPS out of the weapon.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an extra 150 base damage on the item itself. And of course, it rolled with a 10% base damage, 873 dexterity, innately reduces cooldown of all skills by 10% and 25% bonus damage to Rain of Vengeance, 12 maximum discipline, and a Ronald McDonald Happy Meal for the socket. I am
So
incredibly jealous.
yeah, do you need a barf bag? Because
I probably need to take a diet because of the amount of salt entering my system right now. Yeah. There are things going on in chat which I don't even want to go and look at. Fouch, I thought we were friends. Um, but yeah, we've got one last item here. Going off of the question that we had coming in from Derek, a crashing rain, not legendary. But this one is probably one of the best crashing rains that I've seen, just because the bonus damage on it. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit, make it a little bit bigger for everybody, so people can read the stats. So it's crashing rain. It rolled 493 dexterity, 470 vitality, 96% resistance to elements, and 15% life. So it rolled perfect main stats that you're looking for in a crashing rain. You can't really get anything better than that. And then the secondary went and re-rolled for a 1.6% chance to freeze on hit. Just so that way, it's small, but it is somewhat noticeable, especially when you're trying to work Bane of the Trapped into your build with like a focus and an ice blink. This just makes it so that way you have a little bit extra chance to proc it and get that bonus damage in there. But the biggest thing is the Rain of Vengeance bonus damage is 3,944. It rolls 3,000 to 4,000%. Most of the crashing rains I have ever seen are like 3,089. They're like 3,100 or lower. So this is insane, just how much
wow.
damage this puts out. This you would be hard pressed to find a better crashing rain than this, because no matter how well an ancient one rolls, it's gotta be very close to that proc damage to be
Yeah.
replaced.
Yeah, this has been a very educational experience, because I have a crashing rain that dropped, and I didn't quite realize just how useful that belt is.
Oh
And
yeah.
I and I think it's in the 3,800 range.
Ooh,
So
that is a good one. That is definitely a good one.
the more you know.
The more you know.
And yeah, fresh level 70 Demon Hunter has a decent crashing rain. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, it dropped for my monk.
Huh? The game is trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
Demon Hunter Master Race.
No.
Yep. Yep.
Always monk.
It is. I don't know. I left the monk to play the Demon Hunter.
How dare you, sir?
Just saying. Just saying.
Well,
Though.
I left the wizard to play the monk, so clearly I'm more right.
Yeah, I used a wizard to gear my monk.
Oh. This is escalating.
This is just stacking on top of itself. How meta are we going to get here?
Next thing you know, I'm going to be pulling out a trident and throwing it at you and be like, oh man, that really got out of hand.
Well, that escalated quickly. But yeah. So thank you again, everybody, for all those lovely items and feedback that you sent in. And just to go through, I saw some people going and mentioning it in chat. I'm still here. I'm still doing the show. I am looking for a permanent second co-host. I actually did have a couple people go and send me an emails this week expressing interest to going and being a co-host. I am taking those seriously. Steven and I had been in talks for a little bit about getting like a third permanent co-host. And I do have a short list of people that I am going through at the moment to try and tap to come and be a co-host on the show. So I'm just kind of going through that. But if you have interest and you want to be a part of the show, please send me an email. It's the only way that I'll ever know that you want to be a part of it. And even if I don't pick you now, we might get ourselves to a point where we go through to having 3 co-hosts again. So. That would just be something I want to throw out there. I look forward to all of your emails. I thank you, everybody, for coming out and joining us here tonight. And one last thing, this will be the last episode on Steven's channel. We're going to be moving everything over to the main BlizzPro channel. You'll be able to find us on YouTube. Just do a search for BlizzPro. It's the same place where we post the BlizzPro Weekly, the Heroes Power Hour, the Hearthstone Power Hour. And then we'll also be doing the live show on twitch.tv/BlizzPro. It's going to be the same time, so it's still going to be Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And as far as iTunes and Stitchers go, for our listeners, there's not going to be any change there. We're still going to be at that same place, obviously. I guess that really didn't come under any questions there. And also, thanks, Nevik, for going through and being a guest on the show, being part of the show here tonight.
Anytime.
Yeah. Now, is there any last words that you have before we close things out here tonight?
Other than I'm still waiting for the patch note that says Witch Doctor's gone. No.
I believe that is in... that's going to be in the patch 0.89 of Diablo 4.
Yep. Or they'll remove them for necromancers, and then I'll be even less happy.
That was going to be my follow-up, and you beat me to it. I was going to say that removing witch doctors to replace with necromancers, just so that way, just for you, just specifically for you. I was going to go somewhere with that, and I completely lost it as I was coming up with it. Yeah. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.